ready for today is I call him the voice of Carroll County, Mr. Colin Worthington. So we brought the best out for the best, So I'm happy for him to be here. Our timekeeper today is the NAACP president, Dominique Conte, and we have Miss Cheryl Bell. She does a lot of things in this city, man. Yes, she's on the Villa Rica Library Board. A lot of things in this city, yes. So let's go with rules. So we are not at your child or your grandchild's graduation, okay? So when we ask you not to clap and yell, this is not the occasion to do that, because we know y'all gonna do that graduation anyway, right? We're not gonna do that here, okay? So I'm hoping, I don't have to look at you cross-eyed or come tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, exit the door because you're getting a little too rowdy, okay? I thought I saw the Villa Rica Police Chief Mansour today. So if anything happens, I already know he gonna rough you up and get you on up out of here. So I told him he walked in, I feel good and safe in here now. Good and safe with him in here now, because some of these things can get a little rowdy. So really, that's about all I have right now. Sit back, kick back, enjoy the show, and if during the event, if you deem that you need to ask another question, please feel free to go to the box, and we'll try our best to get that question in. So we're gonna start at 7. Hopefully, I'm thinking 6 minutes good. We're gonna start at 7, and we're gonna ask questions to about 8:10, 8:15, and so that give the council enough time to close out that end out speech. So if we have time to get your question in, I promise you we're gonna try our best to get your question in. All right. So let's have a good time tonight. Thank you.
So we get to see the countdown.
Countdown. 30-second countdown. 15-second countdown. Shut up.
See my lines marked out? That's me timing myself. And I still
No, 3 minutes. 3 minutes when it gets to 30.
That's what my husband says. Something about learning to say yes, ma'am, or something.
About 3 minutes. 3 minutes? Yeah, it's about 3.
We going to start? Y'all ready to go? We going to start?
Want to get started?
Yeah, we going to start.
Two. Test 1 2 1 2. 17.
All righty, here we go. We about to get started. Good night, okay. I'm in the right spot? Okay. Good evening, Kwasi Hudson here. Welcome you to a Democratic Party Rica Mayoral race. Have 4 great C-Dub. All right. Assistant moderator, she's on the Library Advisory Board, Miss Cheryl Bell Warren. A former city council candidate for Ward 2. and also the NAACP, our Carroll County NAACP president here, Miss Dominique Conte. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. Oh, I also want to introduce our camera person for tonight, Marcus Smith. So let's get it. Calling your show,
All right,
bro.
I guess we're to start out introducing the candidates as a whole.
Okay, go ahead. Yes, sir.
I guess first of all, we introduce Mr. Kendrick Davis on the left. We have Mayor Gil McDougall. We have Leslie McPherson and Mac Pilgrim, our candidates for this evening. Leslie McPherson won the coin toss before the beginning of this event, so she will introduce herself first, and then we'll be followed with Mac, and then Kendrick and Gil. So please, Leslie, stand up, or speak anyway. Introduce yourself your first 3 minutes.
Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen and kids. This will be a good civics lesson for you during fall break. When I first ran for public office for city council, people had to trust that what I said was what I meant. They had to put faith in what I said about my governing principles, that I would open the lines of communication between them and me with regular email communication, which had not been done prior, that I would work for them and be responsive to their concerns. Citizens no longer have to guess or hope that I'll do those things because they've seen it in action. I have a track record that proves it. I did not come out of the blue to run for office. I kept up on local news, attended council meetings regularly for years in order to become knowledgeable about city issues. I participated in city forums and served as a planning and zoning commissioner. On my own time, I still do seminars, conferences, and classes to better inform myself as a citizen and as an elected official to better represent my city. I read incessantly. I watch documentaries to inform myself on everything from taxes to the homeless issue to free enterprise and business. I prepared myself before I ran for office, and I continue to prepare myself as a city councilman. The experience I have gained is invaluable. I've been a volunteer in various capacities over the years at church, jail ministry, several mission trips. We have an active family life here with 4 generations of our family in Villa Rica. I stay active and busy, but I am retired and have the time to devote to being mayor. I also have no conflicts of interest when it comes to any job or business dealings. Believe me when I say from experience that although city council and the mayor position are called part-time, if you do the job right by doing your homework and serving the people of VR, it takes a significant amount of time. I know that, I've lived it, and I'm ready to continue, should you choose me as your mayor. My best endorsements come from citizens and local businesses that I have advocated and fought for. My main goals are to restore the proper functioning of our governing body in compliance with our city charter and operate within local law, to advocate for our business community, to support economic development and jobs for our people, to get a handle on our explosive growth. In conjunction with all of these, we must continue to work toward water independence, critical water and sewer lines, and for goodness sake, get up to par with maintaining our roads. No matter what any of us says up here tonight, in the end, we must have proven integrity, a track record of doing what we say, and the time and passion to serve the people of Villa Rica. Thank you.
Mr. Pilgrim.
Thank you. Used to standing up doing my job, so it feels natural to do it. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mac Pilgrim, and I'm running for mayor. And tell you a little bit about myself. I was born and raised here. October the 16th of 1973, I was brought home to a little house over on Spring Street, where my mom brought me home. We moved from there to another house over on Magnolia until 1977. My mom and dad bought a house on North Avenue. My mother, who's in the audience, still lives there to this day. Been here my whole life. My family's been in this area for well over 100 years. My kids went to school here. My kids are 18 years old. They're in college now. I had twins. They went to school here. They didn't go to Oak Mountain. They didn't go to Bremen. They went to Villa Rica schools. They graduated from here. I had participated in the recreation program. I served also in Planning and Zoning Commission, as did Mrs. McPherson. When it came time, when I finished high school in 1992, I went to West Georgia. I finished West Georgia. I went to John Marshall Law School in Atlanta. I worked during the day and went to school at night. I had to decide where I wanted to go, where I wanted to work. I worked for a firm in Atlanta, ended up getting married, had 2 children, and said, that's not what I want to do. I don't want to do the commute. I don't want to spend 3 hours a day on the road. So I invested here. I had a choice. So I chose here. And I've been here ever since. I started a law firm in 2006. And when making the decision about any candidate, you ask, why? So why me? Why should you choose me as your mayor? There's 3 qualities I think you look for every candidate. And it's commitment. Is the person committed? Are they committed to the job? Are they committed to the community? Folks, I'm committed. I'm a property owner. I'm a father. I'm a husband. I go to church here. My dentist's here. My doctor's here. I bought property here. I have a business here. I do most of my dealings here. I could have gone anywhere in the state, but I chose here because this is my home. I'm committed. And that's what you have to yourself. Is the person committed to here? Are they committed? Second thing, you want to look, do they have common interest to you? Think about that. I don't care if you're voting for president, senator, whom you vote for. Do their interests align with yours? Well, let's think about that for a moment. I'm a parent. I'm a homeowner. I'm a business owner. I'm a taxpayer. I'm a longtime resident. I own a piece of commercial property. Do you think my interests align? I think they do. And I would suggest to everyone, vote your interest. Vote what's in your best interest. And I think I am in your best interest. Lastly, can the person that you elect lead? Because this is a leadership job. Can they lead? And I will tell you that I can lead because I deal with adverse situations in my job day in and day out. And everybody wants the rebel type of candidate. That doesn't get the job done, folks. You have to have people that cooperate, that get along with people, and that can lead from the middle. And that's what we need here. We're in a time of growth. We're in a time of change. We need somebody that can lead, that can cooperate, and that can get things done. And I'm that person. I appreciate your vote. Thank y'all very much.
Mr. Davis.
Hey, good evening, everybody. I'm Kendrick Davis. I'm a transplant. I've been in Villa Rica for 9 years. I'm a newbie, I would say, for instance, but I'm originally from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Very proud Roll Tide, for my friends at home. And we have a restaurant called Taco Casa, greatest tea in America. That's for my friends at home. So thank you guys for listening in and tuning in on the internet, guys. But what I would like to say is this. I was raised in a household with my mother and father. I'm the youngest of 5, and they instilled a lot of values in me. These values were to show respect for yourself and others. Be responsible for your actions and to stay on the side of right, because right will follow right and 2 wrongs don't make a right, which was coined by my grandmother to my father quite often, which was coined to me while growing up. These values have led me to be very successful in life through my occupation currently as a firefighter, through my previous occupation as a Parks and Recreation professional, and as a husband and as a father. Those things are very important to me. Having integrity, being responsible, having pride and passion for the things that you do. I love Villa Rica. It may not be my hometown. I may be a transplant, but this is where my children were born in. So I love it.
Mr. McDougal.
Oh,
You're not done?
I'm not done yet. It was a pause.
I was moved, sorry.
It was a pause. Well, we're growing. We're bursting at the seams. My wife and I often talk about how Villa Rica would be when my children get to high school. They're in 1st and 2nd grade right now. That's not very long away. How will we be? How hard will it be for them? How will we be in our public safety? We're growing. Are we prepared for it? I think we'll get to that point to be more and definitely prepared for it in the future. And our school district, let's talk about it for a second. Carroll County Schools ranked 13th in the state for the best school systems out of 180. That is why people are moving to city of Villa Rica and Carroll County, because we do have it here. That's tremendous, and it further explains why much growth is happening. As your mayor, we will slow the multi-family housing growth and put more focus on single-family developments. Home ownership is important, very important. Through additional staffing, more recreation programming, community partnerships, and taking more advantage of the things that we already have here in Villa Rica, we will get the job done. A vote for me is a vote for you. Thank you.
Sorry, I ruined your pause, Kendrick.
Oh, you're fine.
Mr. McDougal.
All right, good evening. For the last nearly 4 years, I've served as the city's mayor, and tonight I want to tell you why I have decided to seek another term and to ask you to support me in that effort. Prior to being elected in mayor in 2019, I served on the city council. It was there that I first began to understand the gravity of the issues facing our city. We had just recovered from an algae bloom that compromised our city's drinking water. We made national news as the water supply was disrupted. There were frequent reports of dirty tap water and foul odors coming from the tap. The infrastructure was failing, and in many cases, the fresh water was not running through pipes to your homes. It was actually passing through rust and clay. The city had no money for the long-deferred maintenance and system upgrades. The water and sewer system were not self-sustaining and indeed were losing money. The city was saddled with a $34 million sewer plant that we had been paying interest only on since 2009. In that time, the city had paid some $2.2 million in principal, but nearly $16 million in interest on that debt. The roads were in need of repaving all over the city, and in many failed neighborhoods left over from the housing crash, the roads had not even been top coated. I grew up here in Villa Rica. Many of you may not know that we lived in the housing projects when I was a kid, that I was adopted, that I lost both parents by the time I was 18. I have faced tough challenges in my life, but I have always found a way to overcome. I chose to raise my family here, 3 boys and 3 dogs. I'm a father, a business owner, and for more than 10 years, I was a foster parent. We have opened our home to literally hundreds of foster kids over the years, and I'm proud of the positive impact we had on those kids. Running for another term as mayor for me is about finishing the job we started. There is no doubt that growth we are seeing can seem overwhelming, because it is. What I will say to you is that the city did not and does not seek out this growth. We worked hard to meet the challenges and not fall victim to them. Even while you look around and question one project or another, I would point out that the entire rewrite of the zoning ordinance a few years ago has made it more difficult to build in Villa Rica. I know because I take calls weekly from developers complaining that they cannot get their projects through staff. I want it to be difficult. I want to raise the bar, and we are doing just that. Think for just a moment about the O'Charlie's development. 10 separate parcel owners. It's a mess. Traffic is awful. That could not get approved in Villa Rica today. Look behind the Arby's, 3 hotels and a short-term pay by the week. It's a mess back there. That could not get approved today. I've spent the last 4 years as mayor focused on responsible solutions to the most pressing issues facing our city. I want to continue that work for another term as our mayor. I look forward to hearing your questions tonight. Thank you.
All right, thank you for the introductions, candidates. We will start with questions from the audience that were collected this evening. We will start with Mac Pilgrim for this one. It does have to do with making sure that you guys have time to do the job of mayor. If you own your own business, you work full-time, you have family concerns, family you have to take care of perhaps, how will you have time to handle this position, especially with new growth?
How will I have time to handle the position mayor? Well, anybody who's ever run a business and has had a family and been successful at business understands you have to time manage. And I do time manage quite well. My children now are out of the home. So a lot of the activities I once did with them, band, extracurricular activities are not a part of our life any longer. That's why I thought now was appropriate time to run. I was highly involved in tennis and golf and band and chorus and those sort of things, which they are now in college and are not doing on a daily basis. So I have the energy, I have the time. I also have the ability to delegate, which I do on a daily basis from my business standpoint, understanding the people that work for you, hiring the right people and trusting them to do their jobs, and then making sure that you oversee what they do. So I don't think time's really an issue here. I think that's been made an issue by a couple of candidates here for whatever reason. I don't think it's an issue. I think that's something I can do and I can handle. I think people who are successful in life should be people who serve others. And the fact that you're successful and are busy in life shouldn't be something that is a detriment. I think it's actually a positive.
Mr. Davis, I can repeat the question for you, if you like.
No, it's fine. I have plenty of time. I'm a firefighter. I work a 24-hour, 48-hour shift. So I have plenty of time. I spend a lot of my time now, in the evenings with my children, playing soccer. I coach one of their soccer teams, 8U soccer team over at Fullerville Park. I coach baseball, so I have plenty of time. Most of my days, I spend my mornings jogging around Gold Dust Park. I'm always outside. That's just my background in Parks and Recreation. I love being outside and I love meeting people. So I have plenty of time. This opportunity would be another part of my family. So I'm going to invest the time in my family.
Mr. McDougall, do I need to repeat that for you?
No, sir. So it's interesting. I don't really have any opinion about whether anybody else has time to do this job. What I'm going to tell you is that it's a very unique position that Villa Rica finds itself in today. Villa Rica lies in 2 counties. This is very unique. There's only 5 cities in the entire state that are like that. And when you lie in 2 counties, you're dealing with 2 school boards, 2 county commissions. You have 2 SDS agreements, your lost agreements. This does not just happen. You don't just show up at these city council meetings and do this work. This is a full-time job. I don't care what the charter says. This is a full-time job. You will spend 30 or 40 hours a week doing this job if you do it right. There's no question about it. So if you've got time, you've got time. I'm not questioning whether you have time. I'm telling you that this is not the Villa Rica of the 90s or the 80s or the early 2000s. This is a new place.
Still have about a minute left, but how will you manage your time as a full-time job?
I do it now.
Okay, well, point it out.
I've been doing it for 4 years.
Ms. McPherson.
Yeah, well, some of that experience comes from being on city council. I do have the flexibility because I am retired, so I can, while I may be busy and I set aside time for family, I'm able to move things around and be where I need to be. Sometimes we have meetings that last for hours and hours. We might have retreats where we work days where we meet for 2 days in a row. Yes, it is a big commitment. If you want to go out, be available in the middle of the day to go out and see what a citizen is talking about or a business is talking about that's a problem or an issue for them, they really appreciate it. Even on the phone and email is great, but there's nothing like eyes on problems and that sort of thing. But I would just say the flexibility I have, and to be honest, some of the time I can save is because of relationships I've built over the years, whether it's working with the county commission, particular commissioners or staff and that sort of thing. I know where to go for what I need, as far as answers, that sort of thing. That's all. I'm good.
All right, question number 2. We're going to start with Mr. Davis this time. Growth. Talked a lot about that. Growth is coming to Villa Rica. The person who does question says they do support that. How do you plan to manage that growth in a positive way? And why would you take any actions that you would take?
Growth definitely needs to happen. I mean, it's just inevitable that it's going to happen. That's why we all came here as transplants. It's because of growth. When I first moved here, I lived in Douglasville. I moved from Madison, Alabama, which is, if you research it, it's one of the top cities in America. When I was working in the Atlanta metro area, I asked my coworkers, what was a great city to live in? They said the city of Villa Rica. So I researched city of Villa Rica. I was just blown away by it, how small it was, but it was so much access with it because of Interstate 20. And I love it, but we need to pay attention to the type of growth that we're having. We are becoming apartment city USA. We don't want to become apartment city USA. We want to make sure that we have single family housing. Our traffic is already booming as it is. Our infrastructure is already below par. We need to make improvements. Punkintown Road needs to be improved. There's going to be a roundabout coming to 61 and 78, which that's going to be a 2-lane. That's going to be something that a lot of people not going to really do that well, because we already struggled with off 61, Highway 61 over by Tanner. We already struggled with that roundabout as it is. So we need to pay attention to the growth, but we also need to understand that we missed out on something. We missed out on hotels. Hotels is not in the projects right now. A hotel should have went in off Commerce Drive by Hardee's, but we put an apartment complex there. That should have been a hotel, a top tier hotel, because we only have one, which is Holiday Inn Express. We should have had a Hampton Inn or Hilton Garden so we can take advantage of the tourism. So we can have tournaments at the V-Plex so people didn't have to go to Carrollton or go down to Bremen for a hotel or Douglasville. They can stay in Villa Rica. So those are things that we really need to work on. Like me personally, I would like to hire an economic manager so we can have somebody in-house that'll give us more of insight on how we can grow our city, especially when it comes to our tax base. Keep our tax money in Villa Rica instead of going out to neighboring communities like Hiram, Dallas, Carrollton, Douglasville, spending money. We need to spend that money in VR. Have commercial growth. It's happening, but we need to make sure those things that are happening keep VR citizens in VR spending money. Thank you.
Mr. McDougall.
Would you ask it again?
Certainly.
Thank you.
Question about growth. And if it's not already here, it is coming to Villa Rica. How do you plan to manage that growth in a positive way? And why would you take the actions that you do take?
Sure. So as I said in my opening statement, Villa Rica did not seek, and we do not seek today, this growth. In fact, when we lost our economic development director back in 2018, we decided not to fill that position again. There was too much work to do for the infrastructure to continue to build the base of what the city provides here, the services, the water, the streets, the sewer. We didn't want to take on anything extra. What you're dealing with today, these folks came to us. So we didn't have the option to choose whether or not it was going to be a hotel. We didn't have the option to choose whether or not it was going to be this development or that. What we did have the option to do was to strengthen our zoning laws to make it more difficult to build just anything. As I talked about in my opening statement, there are a host of areas across the city that got approved back in the late 90s and the 2000s that should not be there today and could not be built today. So each time that we've had an opportunity to work with these developers, we have actually made it much more difficult on them to be able to build the projects they want to do. We say no to projects all up and down 61. You can go out there today. I can see that they have some of these competitor signs on their property. They're there because they are upset that we will not move forward with letting them develop hundreds of homes down there. Why? Because of the school system. We are doing our best here in Villa Rica. We're not required to do that. The schools are required to teach ever how many kids come into this city, but we are working with those schools to mitigate how this development impacts the school system. It's what the tax allocation district was about. That is about managing the growth that is coming here. We didn't go get this growth. This growth is beating us down. We are working every day to try to manage this. And those who would try to perpetuate this idea that somehow we're out here searching this growth out and we want this place run over, please, that's not it at all. We work every day to mitigate that growth. So I think that I would do exactly what we are doing now. I will continue this process. I will make it hard for every developer that comes through that door. They will meet the highest of standards possible. And that's exactly what we'll continue doing. Thank you.
Ms. McPherson, same question.
Yeah, I would say some of this growth did start years ago. It was prior to even when I was on council, and I moved here when the crash occurred, and it took a little time to recover. And then the economy turned around, and those neighborhoods started to build out again. Nonetheless, a significant amount of growth has also come while I've been on council. It's a little nuanced in the sense that you have to balance what people can do with their property. I have to tell you, right off the bat, I sweat planning and zoning. I do. I hate telling people what they can and cannot do with their property. But you know what? It's part of our job. Now, the difference is, if somebody's doing something with it, some are real easy. Say, for instance, you have a development and you've got a subdivision or a quiet neighborhood. You're not going to let a concrete place build next door. Those are the easy ones. The hard ones is when the zoning is already there. And there's some things where you have to avoid lawsuits, such as you can't pick a particular lot that is commercial and say, and I know the Dollar General is a joke around here, do we need another Dollar General? But if we say, well, you can't have that, but you can have this, but they're both businesses, we can't do that legally. So it's a little bit more nuanced than we tend to make it. But let me just say this. I'm okay with additional, especially single family dwellings. But even with that, we have to watch because of the traffic. We have done traffic studies. We know what to do based on those traffic studies, but the funding for it is critical. You've got to have more roads going east and west, north and south, so that you have multiple options to get places. I sat down with a think tank guy in Atlanta to look at a map of Atlanta. a map while we were in Atlanta of Villa Rica about how you can move traffic better and the way you can open up your roads. I do have a serious issue with us becoming, I guess I use the term rental heavy. I am concerned that if we get out of whack and out of balance with more of a transient type of, I guess you would say even apartment complexes where people haven't bought into the community. I'm not against apartment complexes. We've probably all had a family member that's lived in one from time to time or in some other rental property. But if we get out of balance, it will change the character of our city. And I would also mention that I'm very concerned about the push to put seniors in rental living when they are downsizing. It is a financially dangerous situation for them. It is growing in Villa Rica, and at the same time, we're building those type of high density units.
Mr. Pilgrim.
Thank you. Growth is the issue we've all talked about, and we're going to continue to talk about. Our location to the city of Atlanta, we're approximately 30 miles west of one of the largest growing metro areas in the last 70 years in this country, and it's going to continue to grow. Our proximity to I-20, it's going to happen. It's just a matter of what we plan. And I think under the current administration and the current council, it has been about a numbers game. They have very much valued numbers. They very much valued what the population will be and what the population will be in the future and going forward. And that, to me, numbers are not good necessarily just because they're numbers. Big is not necessarily better. Better is better. And the city council and mayor oftentimes talk about development, and I want you to just open your eyes just a little bit and talk about growth. And they talk about property rights and what people can and can't do with their property. But the issue about that is this. I spend my professional career defending people's rights. It's what I do. But property rights don't exist in a vacuum, meaning that a person develops a piece of property. That doesn't mean it doesn't affect a person next door or down the street on the other side of town. Those rights are not absolute and they're not in a vacuum. You have to look at how they affect the school system. How do they affect the roads? How do they affect traffic flow? What does it do as far as safety? Those things oftentimes I believe in the city are not considered well enough. They're not taken into consideration. And if you look at our city just beyond our borders, if you will, drive a little bit, if you will, drive down Flat Rock Road, drive down Pleasant Grove Church Road, drive down Williams Road, drive just north of us in Paulding County. Look at the development of the homes. Look at the single family homes. We're talking about $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 homes are being developed. It's not hard, but we're not seeing those necessarily in the city. You might ask yourself, why? Why are those developers choosing to be outside of our city versus inside of our city? Because you're seeing it. Look, it's not hard. And you look at the houses, you look at the development, the quality of what's being built, but it's not being built in your city. So the answer must be something to do with city government, because why are they choosing somewhere else? That's a question I think we all need to ask. And I think it's a question you need to ask of your elected officials. Why would people choose to develop very nice developments, things that would enhance a community and not draw from it? And that's what I'm worried about, because I do not believe the multifamily dwellings, the townhomes that we're seeing built, that's not a sustainable way to grow. I think they'll be great for, tap on fees and those sort of things in the near future. But in the long run, we're going to sell our soul. We're going to sell our soul to the development dollar. And I think we're going to all be left holding the bag. And I plan to be here long after those developers have run back to Roswell, Alpharetta, where they're at, and they've taken their money and gone. So, and that's what I'm looking after. I'm looking after our interests, not only today, but our interests 10 years, 15, 20 years from now. And that's what I'm concerned with. And that's, if you elect me, that's what have my eye on. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We are to question number 3, and Gil McDougall will be the first to answer this. Say a recession occurs during your term, what is the first program that you cut, or would you prefer to raise revenues? How would you do that? Or do you pull from the city's reserves to keep government operating at the same level?
Sure. So one of the things that I've been most proud about is that as we have moved forward, we have been able to build several months worth of reserves, so that if there were a downturn like we saw in 2008 that left the city holding the bag in so many ways, we are actually prepared for that. The city could continue to pay its bills and maintain the same tax millage rate for probably 18 months without any issues. We also have slow rolled a number of developments so that we're not overburdened with the cost of the staff having to manage that if we were to hit a recession. I want to go back just for a minute, though, with my time. It sounds like to me, and I've heard this before, that apartments and multifamily are a real concern. And I don't necessarily disagree with that, but I think that one of the things that happens is there is a misunderstanding about what the role of the mayor is. I would just say that these two folks to my left are the only two people that have ever voted to approve multifamily housing that's up here on this platform, period. The apartments behind the Pizza Hut, both of these guys approved. The townhomes over behind the Dairy Queen, both of these guys approved. The townhomes behind the fire station, both of these guys approved. The Dollar General over at Pumpkin Town and Highway 61, both of these folks approved. The list goes on and on. The mayor doesn't do that, folks. The mayor doesn't cast those votes. These folks do. Mr. Pilgrim was on planning and zoning, and Ms. McPherson was on the council this whole time. Let's not pretend like I'm the only one up here dealing with this growth issue. I have to deal with what these folks pass. So they sit up here and tell you they're not going to be passing this or they're real concerned about it. I guess that's news to me today, because I've been dealing with this for 4 years. Thank you.
Ms. McPherson, you'll get an additional minute for rebuttal, but would you like to answer the initial question first?
What was the initial do some of the other items, but you have to do the critical things that only government can do. In regards to rebuttal, let me just say this. Voting is not the only way a mayor can do things, especially if there's a close connection between staff and the mayor with things that are being done that the council may not even be privy to. You can advocate for all sorts of things as the mayor, whether you're voting or not. You can pull votes your way. You can argue your case for why you think it should go that way, and you can sit in with staff and work on those things to happen. So don't think that although the mayor may not have a vote except in a tie or there's the veto, and at times 3 of us have been vetoed on things that we wanted. So there is really significant
do that. And it is a commitment on behalf of restaurants. And I think you're not going to get a chain in there. It's going to have to be a mom and pop, a husband and wife type situation to do that. But I definitely would encourage that. I'd be hopeful to work with downtown property owners to help develop that sort of relationship that we could put the word out. People looking to serve, and I'm remiss that the Gabes is no longer with us. I'd love to get him back.
Question for you.
Fantastic. The individuals that asked that question, Olive Tree, their pizza is phenomenal. Okay. Sweet Trees Bar, they have some great cupcakes. And Contra's Cravens, which is around the corner, fantastic. I go there to get their pizza crepes all the time. We did do a downtown master plan a few years ago. Some of those things, they haven't been accomplished as of yet, but that is something that we can go back to using SPLOST funds. But the one thing that was very important in that project was to build a parking deck downtown. That's something that we'll like in my campaign, if I were to get mayor, of course, wink, wink. But I would like to put a parking deck on the backside of Olive Tree. There's a big lot back there. It's not very far from the amphitheater, in which the amphitheater right now, we're having an issue with restrooms. I know they were saying at a council meeting that the men, they're going to use porta potties. Okay, so I wonder if a man goes out there with a child, he has to take his child to the porta potties instead of having to use the install restrooms that the women were only supposed to use. Now, that's the issue. And there's other issues that can come about with that process. So me personally, I would like to shut down Temple Street completely, which is the street in front of the police station, because that street in general just needs to be walkable. And we can also build back a little bit. Maybe we extend on to the restroom facilities. That's something that we can do. But downtown, I've been there a lot. I've been talking to a lot of the businesses down there. They need more access. They need more walkable space so people can see what they have to offer, because we have some nice shops down there. Restaurants, they're here. But yeah, we can add on some others, but we need to go out and seek that business. That's why we need an economic manager. As Mayor said, they hadn't replaced their economic development director in years. We're struggling in that area. So that's why it's important to have an economic manager so we can go out and seek that business. We can seek business as a city. We can do that. So as a downtown, we can revitalize. We just need to go back and look at the master plan. Thank you.
Mr. McDougall.
Thank you. So, to do all of these things takes a lot of money. There's no question about that. And I applaud the ideas. And it's not that a lot of ideas haven't been exchanged, but it's one thing to have an idea. It's something else to have money. Offering tax incentives requires money. The city of Villa Rica doesn't have the money to offer those tax incentives. But we can do some other things, though. We can be proactive. I think what is challenging our downtown businesses the most, and what has been a priority for me, is getting the traffic out of downtown. And the problem that you have is that all of these highways converge in one area, which is downtown. When you're coming off of I-20, if you want to go north or south, you only have two choices between Highway 5 and exit 19, which is Temple. You either get off at exit 26 on Punkintown Road and follow that up to 61 and take that north, or you get off at exit 24 and follow that into downtown, and you have to maneuver through downtown, make a U-turn onto South Carroll Road, find 61 there, and then go north. What is happening right now is that we are not allowing 18-wheel traffic on Punkintown Road because the road, frankly, is too dangerous. It's breaking up, and it should not have those trucks on it, and we're doing everything we can to keep them off of it. But when we force those trucks to not be able to take that route, they start going down Connors Road, they're breaking up that road. But then they make a left and cross over the railroad tracks and head right back into downtown. So all of those trucks and all of that traffic is flooding downtown and choking out the life of those businesses. We have to improve Punkintown Road. There's no question about it. We've got to get that traffic out of downtown. Now, the North Loop will do half of that job. It will get the exit 24 traffic and move it around the city to the north where you can then travel on to Dallas or whichever way you're going. But Punkintown Road, until it is rebuilt, and we have earmarked $4 million in SPLOST funds to do that, but until that road is rebuilt, we are going to continue to choke off the life of those businesses in downtown. And that has been a priority. That is what I have worked on, and we finally got that thing approved about 4 or 5 months ago. And it has been the most controversial thing that I have seen happen on this council. But that absolutely had to happen. There's no question about it. And that development that went in down there on the end that got approved, this was a single parcel developer that came to the city and wanted to develop a project. And what we realized was that there was 8 parcels down there that were going to end up being a mess like what you have at the O'Charlie's and what you have over there behind the Arby's. So we worked with that developer for him to acquire all of those parcels and create a single type development there so that we got the best development we could get over there. You were going to get development anyway. It was going to happen, but what you ended up with was where we made a difference in how we worked with them right from the beginning. Thank you.
Mrs. McPherson, again, what is your plan to revitalize downtown to attract higher quality restaurants to the downtown? And secondly, what is your plan to create a different retail direction, if you have one, downtown?
Okay, I have a little different take on what's occurred there. Number one, our downtown is not even what it was 2 years ago. We do have a entertainment district. I actually helped in some small way to help write it, not most of it, just having input, working with the staff member on making that happen. COVID hit and it was devastating to small business. Thank goodness we lived in Georgia, but that didn't mean it didn't hurt those businesses. You know how I know is because I didn't get interested in the downtown yesterday. I talked to those businesses on a regular basis. During COVID, I was down there walking around, even when employees were at home because of the way things were with COVID, sticking my head in the door, asking the restaurants, how are you doing? What are you doing? I was posting their pictures on Facebook, telling people, if you have extra income, please go down and get takeout from our restaurants. Let's keep them alive during this time. So COVID was a major hit. You know what hit them after COVID? What we're seeing right now, this inflation, it is a very difficult time for small business. If you're big, you're okay. Walmart's okay, Home Depot's okay, Lowe's, all the big business, you notice they were allowed to stay open, were they not? Small businesses, it's not so easy for them. They don't have the lobbyists, the lawyers, and everybody else to get special favors for them. But I've also racked my brain on, okay, we're not what we were 2 years ago, but I visit these other cities. I take pictures while I'm there. If I'm in Cartersville, if I'm down in something as large as Columbus or Dahlonega or wherever I go, Ellijay, I pick up ideas that we can do. I haven't quite figured out why is Cartersville and some of these others able to weather this. And the only thing I could think of, like Carrollton, is that they had a strong foundation to begin with. We didn't have a real strong foundation yet. We still only had one breakfast place downtown. So we had limited. We've lost our Charlie's and other things. What I think will help us, though, whether if we want to attract businesses, is we have to not only be business friendly, but I truly think we need to have somebody on staff, not necessarily somebody, a whole separate hire, that will be a business liaison. We need somebody who understands what it is, and on council at times, to be a small business owner. Because I'm telling you right now, there's a number of government people that do not get it. They do not understand being on the small business side and the expenses and how some things that the city does makes it harder for them to operate in Villa Rica. I have fought for them endlessly. I think the Parkway coming through might be a lifeline of everybody from the other side of town having an easy way to bike, and I got to stop. I could go all night on that one, I promise you.
All right, and thank you. And because I messed up the whole routine here, I'm going to ask you, would you like to start this one? Are you okay answering back-to-back questions?
Yeah, I'm fine. Whatever you want to do. I can't keep track of who's going next. I rely on you.
Okay, well, I'm going to start with you this time. What is a plan, or do you have a plan to increase law enforcement or city emergency personnel with all the additional growth being added to the city?
Okay. It's a tough one, too. Law enforcement came under attack a number of years ago. I don't feel like I should have to give a disclaimer every time that everybody knows that every group in culture has some bad apples. Does it exist in law enforcement? Sure. Does it exist in education with teachers? Yes. Does it even exist in the military? And we're a military family. Yes. And as a culture, as we've decided to kick God out of the culture, we probably have more people with problems. But law enforcement, our local law enforcement is well trained. But because of the type of stress, it's already a stressful job. Okay, folks, right? It's already stressful. Your family has to send you off having no idea you're going to face that day. And I watch them, I pray for them, even when they walk up to cars, because you never know what you're walking up to. And when it's dark, it's even harder to see what you're walking up to. So with the way law enforcement has come under extreme pressure these last years, although I will say Carroll County, Douglas County, we've been very supportive of our law enforcement. I think they feel that here. The recruitment is tough. We're having more turnover. We've dealt with the pay. Honestly, I don't think it's the pay. We have good benefits in Villa Rica. We have better benefits than a lot of cities. I truly think that we have to do everything we can to support them from a governing body. I appreciate what citizens do. A lot of our officers don't pay for a meal sometime when they go places. You know why? Because there's people like you all and others that pick up that meal for them because you appreciate what they do in our community. I think even little things like that help. I wish I had an easy answer, but can you name one town that isn't struggling with staffing? Heck, restaurants are struggling with staffing. And that's not near as high stress as law enforcement. But I'll tell you one thing, and this may come across a little harsh. I will not throw our law enforcement under the bus because something hits social media and we start making judgment calls before there's even been an investigation. We wait for an investigation, we get to the facts and the truth, and then we make judgment calls.
Now, Mac, I'm going to ask that you go last in this round, if that's all right. Just
That's fair.
Back on
That's
on
fair.
path. So Kendrick, you okay going second here? What is your plan to increase law enforcement and other emergency personnel, considering all the additional growth that is being added to the city?
Absolutely. If anybody that can answer that question, it's me. I currently work in public safety. So I support our public safety 100%. I don't think we're struggling because as I last checked, we just hired a couple officers here recently. We just lost the captain, but we did send a few to recruit schools and they're on shift now. So I don't think we're struggling. And it's not that individuals don't want to work for the city of Villa Rica. They actually do want to work for the city of Villa Rica because what the city of Villa Rica does offer, which is higher salaries, great benefits, and a great staff. We have a great police chief. That's what we have to offer. Of course, we need to grow with all the new developments that we have, especially the project that's off of the Mirror Lakeside. Resources. You have a SAFER grant program, I know for firefighters. You have a grant program called the SAFER grant, which you can bring in additional staffing, and that grant will pay for it for 3 years. And then after those 3 years, the city will have to city or county will have to take over. So those are programs that I know exist in law enforcement as well. So what I would like to do in general was to build back more of student resource officers, put at least 2 student resource officers in every school that the city of Villa Rica covers. And through those grant processes, which I know we do have a grant writer within the city of Villa Rica, that will accomplish that. Those things are easy, but we're not struggling getting officers at the city of Villa Rica. Our officers are great. They respond to calls immediately. If you ever need them, they're there. And it's going to be a lot of them as well. And they're going to have a great attitude. Those guys do a phenomenal job. Always have. If I ever needed them in my neighborhood, they were always there in a matter of a minute. I never stressed about the city of Villa Rica Police. They're great. I know that. They're great. So people do want to work for the city of Villa Rica. We just lost a captain, but we're going to have somebody step up and replace him. Always, because we do a phenomenal job. Thank you.
All right, Gil, same question.
So We will handle that situation the same way that we handle it now. The chief is very capable. He works through the budget process, and when he requests more equipment for our officers or more officers, the budget, we find a way to make it work. I don't believe the chief would disagree that he has gotten everything he has ever asked for to support him there. I would say I appreciate those comments. I do think that we have gone a long way toward raising starting salaries and salaries all the way up the chain. And yes, we did recently lose a captain, and that is a loss for us. But the chief has already identified a replacement, and that person is already coming on board. One of the things that I think is important when you are in a leadership role is to acknowledge when you've made a mistake. I love my boys, but they make mistakes. And when they make a mistake, I call them out on it, and we learn from it, and we don't make that mistake again. My support of this police department is unwavering and has never wavered. These guys put their life on the line for us every day. We've had officers shot while I've been mayor. I would just say that the most important job of a leader is to step up and take responsibility when you need to. And we showed the support to our entire team as was necessary there. I think that we're doing everything we can here to increase the benefits package for our police officers, for our employees all across the city. And we will continue to do just that. That's how we will meet the demands if we need more officers. Thank you.
And Mac, same question.
You know, some of you, I mean, you may know that I do criminal defense work as part of my job, and I have for the better part of 2 decades. But what some of you may not know is I'm actually a PBA lawyer, which is Police Benevolent Association. So if an officer is involved in a shooting or anything, they actually, if they're part of the Southern States Police Benevolent Association, they actually can call me and I represent them. So I represent quite a few law enforcement officers in that capacity. I also have become friends with quite a few of them. I represent them on other matters professionally and then personally. And one of the things about law enforcement, I think one of the things that has happened, at least in the last 15 years or so, is there's a disconnect between the guy behind the car, behind the glass, behind the wheel, and the people living in the houses and the people walking on the streets. And some of that comes from a mindset, I think, that has permeated law enforcement, which is you don't live where you work. And I disagree with that. I think when officers live where they work, their kids go to school with the person they're pulling over's kids. They shop at the same Walmart. They see the kids at the soccer field. They go to church with them. And I think that changes. That's community policing. And that's at the heart of community policing. And I say all that to tell you this. I believe we can develop a plan, and it can't be rolled out all at once. There's not enough money. I'm not foolish enough to believe that. But we need to create a plan that officers in this city, after we can work on the number, let's say 3 to 5 years, if they stay with the city, they can receive some sort of down payment grant from the city, where they can put a down payment on a house in the city limits of Villa Rica. And then they have to work X number of years for the city. And in doing so, the grant is then forgiven so much per year. What that does is that puts your officers in your city. That puts their patrol cars in your neighborhoods. That puts them going to the CVS. That puts them going to the Publix. That puts them here. And that gives them a greater sense of pride of where they work. It gives them a greater sense of pride of their community. It makes them take a little bit, they don't necessarily clock out and go home. It is their home. And I think that's something we could do for them. Oftentimes, especially with the current housing prices, it's hard to come up with a down payment, but this would allow them to do so. And this would be something, and we would have to look at the books. We would have to definitely work the books to see if we can make this happen. But this is something I think that should happen, because I think it's overall a good thing for the city. I think it's good for us as citizens. I think it's good for public safety. And I think it's good for the officers. And I think it's good for the department as a whole. So that would be something I would try to implement if I were elected.
And because I messed up the rotation a little while ago, Cheryl is taking the mic away from me, and she's going to start asking questions. Kendrick?
Okay, Mr. Davis, the next question is, what is your vision plan to help improve the recreation department to help keep families in the city of Villa Rica?
Once again, the perfect individual to answer that question. Being a former Parks and Recreation professional, one thing that we do struggle with is recreational programming. For example, we don't have an after-school program right now. We don't have a YMCA. We don't have a Boys and Girls Club. So we need to partner with the school system so we can have an after-school program at Gold Dust Park. We can have buses from our elementary schools to bus these children over to Gold Dust Park. We could create a program with Tracy Ivy and the staff over there. They can do a phenomenal job with that program. Some of our neighboring Parks and Recreation departments, they're doing it currently. But what we need to do also is we need to grow our department because we're struggling with space right now. Fullerville Park, if you go out there right now on the soccer game day, that parking lot is full. You know, there's nowhere else to park. Our fields are filled up on a daily basis out there. So our programming, we need to grow. Our SPLOS funds, we can always grow our departments. I know here recently they added more staffing. They have more events that are coming into play. So we're in a healthy area, but we need outside resources to help us. Partner with the school system in general, that's going to help us. We don't have a track and field program right now. Our children are going to Carrollton. So if we're able to use the track at City of Villa Rica High School, for example, we can have a program. We don't want these children to have to go to Carrollton, you know, so we need to add on to those programs and program opportunities, special events. That's another big thing that we need to add on to. And we need to drop our prices a little bit as well. The ghost train, in my opinion, is too high. Parks and Recreation is about nominal fees. That should be between $5 and $8. That shouldn't be $13. That's just my take on it. When I was in Parks and Recreation as a programmer, I didn't charge individuals $10. Most of my events, they were $5 to attend because I wanted everybody to attend. I didn't want it just to be exclusive to a few that could afford it. That's not what Parks and Recreation is about. Parks and Recreation is about allowing everybody to come out and show up. That's what it's about. And we need to drop our fees a little bit so we can make sure that we're offering everything to all these citizens of the city of Villa Rica. Thank you.
Okay, Mayor Gill, same question?
Would you ask that question again?
Yes. What is that?
Okay, let me try to remember it. So I think the question was how we would improve Parks and Recreation. So we have spent a considerable amount of money over there. And in last year's budget, we hired a consulting firm to come in and reevaluate our facilities and our programs for the entire department. Now, we spent $750,000, $750,000 on a new splash pad over there. We just approved outdoor workout equipment. Pickleball is becoming a huge thing now. We're funding more over at the senior center. The ghost train, although it may be a little bit expensive, it sells out every single night, and I'd encourage everybody to go out there and do that this year. The same thing for the Winter Wonderland train. But let's keep in mind, the Parks and Recreation program was hurt badly by COVID. So no matter what you thought about COVID, parents took their kids out of these programs, and it has struggled to recover. But that program here at the Recreation Department loses $450,000 a year, every year. Pine Mountain Gold Museum, nearly $400,000 itself. That's $800,000 a year in losses that we take on these two programs here in the city. We are continuing to work on that so that we can build these programs and to make these things begin to at least somewhat pay for themselves. Because what I've talked about earlier is our focus really had to be on clean water, on sewers, on roads. That had to be our priority. These things didn't really fall by the wayside, but when COVID took away all of the kids, it gave us an opportunity to refocus what we were doing. And that's why we brought in the consulting firm, because after that, we needed to know how we could meet the challenges of Parks and Recreation going forward. They have now put a plan out. We work with the coaches over at the high school. We're working together with Tracy out at the Parks and Recreation. I know we're on the right track. We are not there. We've got a long way to go. We know that. But I think that we are putting the right building blocks in place to improve these programs. But there are still facts about these programs that I think everybody should know. Losing that money matters. So we have to, when we spend money here in Villa Rica, I say this all the time, we don't probably have the money to spend. but we definitely don't have the money to spend twice. So we are trying to prioritize and do this the right way. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. McPherson, same question. I found the question, so do you want me to?
No, I think I've got it. To be honest, I think we are making the improvements. Sometime getting the right staff in there makes a big difference. I feel good about who we have in there and who she has hired. I've seen the improvements over on the path in Gold Dust go from a tripping hazard to a nice, safe path. I love the times when I can go over there because I have to drive to get there, and usually I'll just go out my door and do most of my walking. But I'll go over there specifically sometime just so I can observe what's going on. It's the same reason I would walk in my ward. I drive and park downtown. You see things walking around that you don't see when you go in a car. We did allocate the money to do a master plan, and not just of recreation, but all our parks, because green space in general is important. I mean, you want to talk about it getting hot in the cities. It's when you put asphalt and concrete everywhere and you don't have pockets of grass and places that you want to go sit and there's some shade and a break from the heat. So we've looked at all our parks, and that's what that consultant was for, to look at all of it and also look at our programs. You might have programs that they're not worth continuing. Maybe other ones you should do. Pickleball is hot. So yeah, and those people, they are wild. I mean, they want to see some more pickleball courts, and it's allocating the money, but as long as they hang around, they'll probably get some of what they want because of their passion. I know from the grandson playing soccer how busy the soccer is and the fields and everything over there. Sometimes there's little things you can do to help parents as far as cost. I'm like, why do you have to have a new uniform for 2 seasons when the kid can wear for spring ball what they played, for fall ball? Really, the numbers aren't that important at the little size, believe me. Little things like that if it's $70 for a uniform, you got 2-3 kids, you think that makes a difference for parents? Of course it does. I even think some of the 5K races we put on that can end up being $30 a pop, 2 people in a family, that's $60. Maybe that didn't mean a lot 3 years ago. Well, it did to me even 3 years ago. But now with things being a little tighter, so sometimes that just has to be looked at and evaluated. The master design, uniform, quality of life. Okay, so Parks and Recreation is always going to be a loser of money to a degree, but you don't want it to be a massive hole. So yes, I do think we need to look at what we charge for things, be as efficient as we can. Government's not really always good at being efficient, but that's why you want to have good staff in there who actually values taxpayer dollars. But I totally lost my train of thought. I'm telling you, we border on ADD in my family, and it just happens. But I would say just overall, you have good staff in there. Oh, time to stop. I'm right on track.
Sorry, Ms. McPherson.
That's okay.
Okay, Mr. Pilgrim,
I'm ready.
your vision plan to help improve the recreation.
Now, this is something that's close to my heart. When I say Villa Rica Recreation Department, I literally have been involved in my family and myself since the 70s, and I'm still involved to this day. I've attended a recreation event this week, last Saturday, as a matter of fact, and I wonder how many people at City Hall and Council actually go to things, because I sometimes wonder. And I wonder how many people. And when I say I'm involved, oftentimes all-star teams that play have my name on the back of their jerseys. They go to all-star games because I sponsor them. You know why? Because it's important. And investing in kids, I have a unique perspective that oftentimes in my job, I represent young kids, oftentimes young men, who if they'd had a little bit more supervision, if they'd had a little bit more direction, if they'd had a positive influence in their life, I might not be representing them. But he didn't get that. And a recreation program can help give that. So it's, when we talk about losing money, recreation program is not about making money. It's about investment in the future. It's about investment in those kids now, so that 10 years from now, 8 years from now, remember when I told you early, I care about the future of the city. I care about the future of this community. And that's what we're doing. We're investing money. When you put money in the stock market, you lose it. You don't get to use it, right? It's in the market until hopefully you get investment on a return on investment. That's what this is. You invest in these young people and you give them opportunity and you give them access to things they might not have otherwise had so that they become better citizens and they learn discipline. They learn how to work as a team and they learn not to be a bully and they learn how to get along with people and they learn how to play the game and how to compete in life. And that's what you hope for. And you want to give them the best they possibly can have because being a winner is not a bad thing, folks. Being a winner is not a bad thing. And I'm involved. Some of you know I still announce high school football and have for 15 years. The reason I do that is because I want to be involved. I want to be involved in their lives. I want to give back. And that's what I think, that's one of the things where you'll probably never sell me on the dollar and cents of it because I would spend more if possible on recreation because I think we need more positive influence. We need more positive places for kids to be because there are plenty of negative places for them to be. There are plenty of distractions for them to have that can draw them down paths that they don't need to be at. And I think oftentimes recreation is a place that can help them. And that's what I hope for. I think if there were a little bit more time, they wouldn't necessarily have to come see me later on. And so that's what I hope for. And so this is something I'm very passionate about because I see the positive in it. I don't see the dollar and cents. I see the positive, and I see young men that I have coached that come up to me and speak to me at convenience stores and things around town and say, hey, you remember when I was 12 years old? They're 38-year-old men, and they're talking to me, and I have positive feelings about them, and they have positive feelings about me. That's what we do it for, and that's what matters.
Okay, this is the last question for the candidates, but each of you will have 3 minutes following this question to give your closing remarks. Cheryl, last question.
I thought this was the one before the last. All right, last question. We're going to start with Mayor McDougal. There are times where the tone of folks who were born and raised in Villa Rica can be hostile and unwelcoming to folks who move to Villa Rica. I chose to move to Villa Rica. This is the person that's asking the question, and this is their opinion. I chose to move to Villa Rica in 2012, and we raise our children here. My wife and I want to know what you will do as mayor to make us feel consistently welcomed and valued in this community, regardless of where we were born.
You sure that's not your question, Cheryl?
I came here in 2014, so.
So I was born and raised here. Max said earlier that he was born on October the 16th. I was born on October the 14th. Maybe even the same year, I don't know. But Villa Rica has been welcoming people for really generations. I think Villa Rica is a welcoming place now. I don't recall ever feeling like we weren't a welcoming place. I don't find that people here are particularly any more judgmental than anywhere else. I think that we are already doing a great job of welcoming people to our city. Villa Rica is a great place to grow up, to raise your families, and to have those families stay here for another generation. I travel a good bit, and every opportunity I get to talk about Villa Rica, I just get excited about it. I talk about the City of Gold. It gives an opportunity to talk about why we're called the City of Gold. I think about the history of Villa Rica. Sometimes people will bring up different elements of race with regard to the South, but growing up here, I don't recall ever feeling that way. Were there times when people made comments or said something they shouldn't have said? Of course. But overall, this has been such a wonderful and welcoming community, and it's why, frankly, I decided that I would not leave. That's why I'm still here after all these years, after I was grown and started my own business right here in Villa Rica. It's why I'm still here. It's why the boys are here. It's why Eli is still at Villa Rica High School. It's because this place is special, and I mean to keep it that way. But I will say this, the city is going to grow. I mean, there's no question about it. We are sitting right on I-20. We have a federal highway that runs right through downtown. We have a state highway that runs right through downtown. We don't really have a choice but to be welcoming to people because they're coming and they're going to keep coming. And as long as Georgia continues to be the #1 state in the country to do business, And as long as these counties all around us continue to grow, Villa Rica doesn't have the option of closing the door. We're going to deal with the impact of the traffic and that growth, irrespective of whether we plan for it and make the right decisions or not. And if we don't, we get to live with and suffer with those pains of growing. So I would just say that we will continue doing exactly what we've been doing. We will continue to welcome people here to the city of Villa Rica because this is a great place to live and a great place to call home.
Thank you. Ms. McPherson?
Would you repeat the question, please?
Okay, there are times when the tone of folks who were born and raised in Villa Rica can be hostile and unwelcoming to folks who moved to Villa Rica. I chose to move to Villa Rica in 2012, and we raise our children here. My wife and I want to know what you will do as mayor to make us feel consistently welcomed and valued in this community, regardless of where we were born.
Okay, well, to be honest, I think that's something I try to address with people in general. I can't tell you how many hundreds of doors I've been at where various issues come up. Sometimes things like that, it might be crime, it might be car break-ins, it might be when's it going to be walkable, what's getting built over here. But I obviously was not born here and I don't have that lovely Southern drawl. But when I came here, part of what made me feel so welcome is I happened to be in a church that was very welcoming and had people that had been here forever to people who had only been here a few years, and it didn't seem to matter to them. Sometimes when you get in a small cluster and everybody's been here forever and they all know one another and they go back decades, maybe you feel like you don't fit in. I will say this, I have heard some of those comments, but I also know that even if it's just a small number of people that make the comments, it seems like a big deal to everyone. I don't think the majority of people feel that way, but I have heard, how come the people over on that side of town get this, or we don't get that, or these get favors or don't, or that's the rich side, or that's the poor side. I'm sorry, I grew up in an area that had people from all walks of life, and I just don't see it. In high school, it was the same way on the cross-country team and the track team. We had kids from different cultures and different areas. So I think who sets the tone? The mayor can set the tone. The mayor can make remarks and say things about it. But it takes each individual person, each individual citizen being a part of that. And sometimes I explain things like that. They'll go, well, how come Mirror Lake got the paths over there and Villa Rica doesn't have them? Because the developer built them. And if the developer that built your neighborhood put them in, you'd have them too. So some of those people just don't understand. They have a misunderstanding. But you know what? If we talk with one another, we can work those things out. And to be honest, I think it's going to be more friendly when we are more walkable, when we are more often in a golf cart or on a bike getting around town, because you notice the way people treat one another differently when they're not in closed up windows that you can't even see who's behind the glass. We've been out on a golf cart. We've been out on bikes. We've been out walking. People tend to say hello more. They tend to wave more because they see your face. So while I think the attitude of the mayor can make a difference, yes, I do. But I think it takes all of us.
Thank you. Mr. Pilgrim, same question.
Thank you. Mayor, as far as dealing with people, you have to deal with them one-on-one on a personal level. The mayor should never, no matter who the mayor is, they should never make somebody feel less because they're not from here or they're from there. They've only been here 3 months versus 40 years. And again, my line of work, I work in the law, and the law applies to everybody equally. So I would hope that would apply to everyone equally. And as far as the hostilities that these people have posed, whoever wrote the letter or wrote the question, I'm sorry that happened. It shouldn't have happened. And I think how you best combat that is with transparency and communication. You put as much information out as you can, and you put as much talkable chances or opportunities with people. And that includes the people that are hired at City Hall, the people that the citizens deal with, the people that if they call City Hall, who do they deal with? How are they treated? How are they communicated with? I think that goes a long way. And the flip side of this is, and I don't know who wrote this letter or who wrote this question, but sometimes it takes a little self introspection too, because have you brought some of your thoughts and beliefs with you and tried to implement them on other folks? And are they resistant to your thoughts and beliefs and your way of thinking? And they were not necessarily going to be changed. So maybe the hostility was not just one-sided. It requires you to be open. It requires you to look at yourself. It requires you to be honest with yourself, both sides. And I don't like the idea of hostility between people that live together, neighbors. That's not a good thing for anybody. But I do think that people have been moving here since the 1820s with a hope of a better life. That's why they came. They came here looking for gold originally, but they've been coming here for 200 years for that reason. It's for a better life for themselves and their family and their next generation. And so that's something that I would hope as a mayor, they would see that I'm able to communicate. I'm open. I would hope we would have opportunity. You see me, speak to me. I have no problem talking to you, whoever you are. And you can't necessarily control what other people say or other people think. You can only control what you do and how you behave. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pilgrim. Mr. Davis?
Absolutely. I'm a transplant. The things that was in that question, I've felt it myself. Even becoming a candidate for mayor, I had those questions. How do you feel? Do you belong on this stage? You haven't been here long enough. You haven't taken part in city functions or county functions. They don't know me. They don't know my past. They don't know the things I've done prior. Just like now, I'm the only individual with true working experience in city and county government. I'm the only candidate with that experience. So I know, most importantly, how a city or a county is supposed to function. I know what we can do. We can sit up here all day and say, we're not supposed to do this. We're not supposed to do that. Trust me, I know what we can do because I've been there. I currently am there currently. So I'll say this. I love it here. I love you all as citizens. You've welcomed me in for the most part. Everybody has always talked very positively about Villa Rica and what Villa Rica is going to become in the future. And I'll say this, as mayor, you have to have a positive attitude. And I'm not saying prior there was a bad attitude, but you always have to have a positive attitude about everything because you're going to be the person that everybody looks to. You have to have passion. You have to have strong character. You have to have morals and ethics to make sure that everybody falls in place because you're the leader. You're the leader of the entire city, regardless of how you may think lowly of that, but you are the face of the city. So you have to abide by that. So I'm with you. We're going to make progress here. I'm telling you that now. We're going to make progress, and it's going to be very successful. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. And we're going to hand it back over to Colin for the last question.
This is the opportunity for you guys to close out and tell us why we should vote for you as mayor. And I believe since we started with Leslie at the very beginning, we'll reverse that. We'll start with Gil McDougall, then go to Kendrick, then go to Pilgrim, and then go to Leslie for these closing statements and incorporate somehow in your closing statement, why you are the best candidate for mayor.
So they say in war, you can only die once, but in politics, you can die over and over and over again. And that feels true sometimes. I want to thank everyone again for being here tonight, and really the Democratic Party for reaching out and asking to host this event. Nobody else reached out. Nobody else was interested in doing it. We have 2 ears for a reason. That's to listen. I do a lot of listening. And I am convinced now more than ever that your decision for mayor will heavily influence the shape and direction we take over the critical course of the coming years. General statements of lofty ideas and uninformed promises are not enough to handle the serious challenges we currently find ourselves in. I believe my solid tenure of service over the last 4 years as mayor and a lifetime in this community have informed me in such a manner to continue leading this city responsibly. I have the leadership, the experience, and commitment to keep this city moving. The motto I'm led by comes from Albert Einstein. We cannot solve our problems using the same logic we used when we created them. I am the only candidate who's been alongside our employees when they've uncovered broken water lines only to discover rust and red clay. I'm the only candidate who has negotiated an SDS agreement. And I am the only candidate who has experience working with this city council, including the commissioners of 2 counties and chairpersons of both counties and 2 school boards to work out a workable agreement on a tax allocation district. The people of this city know I'm serious about the work I do because I have already demonstrated that commitment, and I will continue to do that, re-elected as mayor. I humbly ask for your vote in partnership to move Villa Rica forward. Thank you.
Up to 3 minutes, Mr. Davis, for closing.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for allowing us to come out here and speak tonight. This has been a wonderful experience. I love you all for it. It's time for us as Villa Ricans to lead from the front instead of following from the back. Why not VR? Why not VR? We are VR. You have to understand that. We have to have that passion. It's not about the losses. It's about what we're going to win in the future. We're going to be very successful because we are going to be the leaders here in the West Georgia. We already have a great school system. We already have a great county on either side, Carroll and Douglas. They're doing a wonderful job. Why not VR? It's not about Carrollton anymore. It's not about Hiram. It's not about any of those cities. It is about VR and what we're going to do in the future. We're going to make sure that we're successful once again because we're going to bring people here to the city to do a wonderful job, that want to do a wonderful job for the city of Villa Rica. It doesn't matter if they live outside our community, but they will do a wonderful job for the city of Villa Rica because they will have pride and passion for the city of Villa Rica. And that's what we need here. It's not about the past. It's about the future. It's not even about the present time. It's about the future. It's about our children. 10 years from now, how will our city be? Will they move out or will they come back and stay? They can work in Metro Atlanta. That's great. But I want them to live in the city of Villa Rica. That's where I want them to live at. I want my children to live in the city of Villa Rica. I want my children to go to Georgia Tech, be engineers, but come back home, live in the city of Villa Rica. Take pride in that. That's what I want to see. We will see that. We just have to know it's about us, city of Villa Rica. Thank you, guys.
Mr. Pilgrim, 3 minutes to close it out.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, thank the Carroll County Democrats for putting this on. No one else stepped forward and did. So thank you very much for organizing this tonight. Also, thank you guys for coming out on a rainy Wednesday night when the Braves game was on. I had something else to do. So thank you for coming out tonight and listening. Politics is something that's very interesting. People seem to get really worked up on national politics, senatorial, presidential elections. But in reality, what we're most affected by as citizens is local. What happens at the city hall and county commissioners affect us. School board meetings affect us a lot quicker than anything that happens on the national level. And people tend to be less involved on the local level. So thank you very much for being here. I do understand that it's an inconvenience, but thank you for being. And folks, to close, I want to point out to you that things we've said today, some of the information we've given to you is, again, a lot of it is based on supposition. Some of it's based on sheer guesswork of what we think things might be and when things might come to fruition. But for you as the voter, you got to make a decision. Who do you trust? Who's going to tell you the truth? Who's going to be honest with you? Who's honest with you all the time? Who do you believe? Who do you believe has the character to lead? Who has the integrity to lead? Who has the example of a leader? A person who's built a business, who employs people, who has an example of someone who's committed to the city, who's an example of committed to education, has experience, has a legal education that the city will face, oftentimes legal struggles. I think I have an advantage in that area. More importantly, who cares about the city most? Who cares about, and I think Ms. McPherson mentioned this, who cares about the entire city? Because I think we're at a tipping point, folks. We're at a point where we're selling our soul for folks that ain't even moved here yet. We're selling who we are for future residents. We're selling our soul to people who ain't paid a dime taxes yet. And these clay pipes that we speak of and those sort of things, trust me, they run underneath my house when I was a child in my mom's house. So I know what he's talking about. And some of them may still be in the ground on North Avenue where my mother lives. So I'm not going to be the mayor for Mirror Lake. I'm not going to be the mayor for Fullerville. I'm not going to be the mayor for 101. I'm going to be the mayor for Villa Rica. That's everybody. And that's who I'm going to be. I'm going to be the mayor for all of us. And your concerns are my concerns because I am you. I'm here. I'm a homeowner. I'm a father. I'm a husband. I'm a business owner. I'm a commercial owner. I am you. Our interests are aligned. And I ask you to think about that when you go vote. And I ask you to vote for me when you go to the polls, which open up early voting next Monday. So make sure you get out and vote and tell your friends and neighbors to do the same. Thank you very much.
And Mrs. McPherson in closing.
I would also thank you all for this opportunity, both for us and for the citizens, because you were the only ones that were doing it when the League of Women Voters, for whatever reason, was not going to do their normal forum. So thank you. I know it's volunteer, and I imagine it was a little stressful with the technology. Thank you. Thank you for those of y'all that came. I know some people can't. It's a rough week. It's fall break. And so I hope that the video spreads far and wide and that citizens will watch. I realize that it is really a small number often in municipal races that participate. And while that may be a little distressing, thank goodness for the ones that do. And I would just say this, when you go vote, I would say, please don't vote for me or anyone else because we're your friend, we're your fellow church member, or a business associate. Please vote for who you believe is the best candidate for mayor, and Villa Rica deserves that. Above all, and I've said it a million times and I'll keep saying it, integrity matters. Without integrity, nothing else matters because that's the foundation. And once you have that, vote for someone who cares how your money is spent, who you know looks at the budget, who alerts you to when things are going on and lets you know what's coming down the pike, whether it's millage rate hearings or the budget, and how you can participate. Someone who cares about the tax burden on property owners and has shown it with actions. Vote for someone who cares about our quality of life here in Villa Rica. We've talked a lot about growth and the type of growth, but the most important thing going forward is we want this to be a place that we still want to be with our families in 10 years. And like I said, I have 4 generations living here right now and one still in the oven. So from that to 94 years old, and they all benefit from things that go on in Villa Rica, whether it's the senior center, the recreation, and the other services. Vote for someone who does their research and their homework and has a proven track record of working with citizens and local businesses. No one has fought like me to protect and help our local businesses. It is vital to our downtown. Vote for someone who can admit when they've to admit it. It serves no one. I would be honored to have your vote.
All right, thank you very much to the candidates, and thank you very much to the audience. We could have been here till 2 o'clock this morning answering all of those questions. So I hope that we did a decent job sorting those out for you.
All right, give me 2 minutes. Give me 2 minutes. I'm gonna let you go. 2 minutes. 2 minutes, ma'am. 2 minutes. I promise. 2 minutes. Okay. Thank you. I want to thank the candidates, but I also want to have some Carroll County Democrats raise their hands in here. I see our president, Brian Hager's in the back. Miss Crit, I'm sorry. Mr. Bob Pitney, who's a former, what seat? Board, seat 3? Seat 3, Carroll County School Board former. Ms. Cox here, Miss Pat Rudy, our president emeritus. And I just want to give you guys, everybody know you, Miss Bell. And I want to give you 3 quick dates real quick. Early voting, like Mr. Pickram said, starts Monday, October 16th. The last day to order your absentee ballot or your mail-in ballot is October 27th. And Power Park in Villa Rica opens on October 30th for early voting. And I know that's when we all gonna go vote, October 30th, all right? So good night, thanks for coming, love y'all, be safe.